I guess this is a September theme for the Southern Hemisphere crowd because it is going to come into spring for us soon, and I know for a lot of people that means getting excited about going to the beach. Couldn't be me, but for some people. This theme is all about water themes, underwater creatures, mermaids and seashells, and the levity that comes with warmer seasons. This is September in the Mystery Journal, which is not my own bullet journal to use. This is a journal I set up for 6 months of the year in advance and then send off to a lucky winner, so this one has not been in my possession for some time now. Hi, it's Erin. Thanks for clicking on my video. Let's get planning for September 2024. This is the Astral Travel Notebook from KUMA Stationery and Crafts. I'm using these watery textured sticker sheets from JOURNALSAY, and all of these wonderful ocean-themed sticker sheets are from the Below the Blue set from Sticky. I actually have discount codes for all 3 of those stores, so make sure you check out the information in the description. And as always, I will link to as many of the things I'm using to make this theme as I possibly can in the description as well. I'm starting out this September theme by chopping off part of the right page here to make a Dutch door, which means that we reveal a little bit of the page that's underneath. It's purely for decorative purposes this time. It's not going to serve kind of a function. It's just to have a bit of fun with a theme because I hadn't done a Dutch door in this journal yet. And I felt like there was some symbolism involved here where the thing that is underneath is the water, which is where all of the creatures are. Like, it just seemed appropriate for an ocean theme. So I've gone ahead and cut some of my watery sticker down to the size of the right side here where that Dutch door will reveal. This is actually going to be our calendar spread, but I wanted to have this down first so I could use it as a bit of a visual prompt because I hadn't totally gone in with a plan for this theme. I had worked out where the functional parts of my layouts were going to go, but I hadn't worked out how I was going to use all of these decorative elements together. I really figured that out on the fly. The size of those sticker sheets are not as long as an A5 page, unfortunately, so I had to cut an extra bit to make it go all the way from the top to the bottom of this page. And I'm using a craft knife to clean it up so it all looks like one seamless piece. Some more of the water sticker that I've cut off there I'm going to use as the basis for my cover on the left side here. I liked the balance of having that blue watery texture on the left page and also on the right, so things aren't feeling too heavy on one side of the spread. I'm also dipping into my pastel washi tape collection here, and I'm going to be using some light blue and some kind of sandy tones for this setup. Seems appropriate, right? And I'm going to have those move from the left all the way over onto the right page to kind of link those two together and make it really clear that this is one cohesive spread. My plan is to add a quote to the left side in kind of a small text sort of way. I'm going to add the September lettering on the right side. And my feelings about the sea are that it's chaotic and it's violent and it's beautiful and it's calm and it's not too perfect, so I didn't want to go in with any really precise hand lettering this time. It's very unusual for me, but I'm kind of just using my regular handwriting and trying to make it like a little bit fancier. Unfortunately, in making it a little bit fancier, I think I actually made it worse. I overthought it a little bit, but it's not too bad. You can still read what's going on here. I'm using a Lamy Safari. This is technically my partner's fountain pen, but I'm really enjoying using it at the moment, as I was when I set this up back in May as well. I quite often end up with these little offcuts of the stickers that I'm using, so I thought I would try to be really resourceful and use everything that I could here, and it would be fun to have kind of a little gap, make a bit of a pattern here with this left page, so I'm just trying to stagger these rectangles to make something a little bit unusual and interesting. And then we get to the most fun part, which is sticker bombing. There are so many wonderful ocean-themed stickers in this set. I mean, it's the point. Sticky have these sets that are themed so that you can use them in a single setup this way. I already had a mermaid down on the page there, and she is very colourful, so I wanted to keep everything else a little bit more muted. I will put another mermaid, I think, on that left page, but we'll get there. For now, we're doing lots of jellyfish, lots of crabs, lots of seahorses, that kind of thing, and I decided I also wanted a little contrasting strip along the edge of the Dutch door here, so I'm using this kind of beige sand colour washi tape to line the edge of the page so it really stands out against that water texture on the following page. I seem to really burn through my supply of solid coloured washi tapes when I'm setting up the mystery journal because I exhausted a couple of colours in this setup, so clearly they're an integral part of my stationery library. I really feel like they're kind of like having basics in your wardrobe. Pastel washi tapes in solid colours are just so versatile. But now that I've added the sand color to the right side of the page there, we've got a little bit of it visible in those kind of rose gold jellyfish, but I wanted to bring that out a little bit more and make it really obviously part of the theme, so I thought I'd add a little bit of that to the page as well. Before we wrap up this cover spread, allow me to introduce Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. I'm learning to embroider. What you're seeing here is actually my first attempt ever, and I'm honestly so proud of my efforts. Some of my favorite items of clothing have lovely embroidered embellishments, and I really wanted to learn how to add my own so I can super customize my stuff. Where am I learning this? I'm so glad you asked. I'm taking classes on Skillshare. If you're not familiar with Skillshare, it's the online world's largest learning community by creatives for creatives. We're talking thousands of classes across so many skill sets. I spend most of my time in the crafts or drawing and painting sections, but they also have classes for all skill levels on animation, productivity, film and video, digital illustration, music, the list goes on. I took exactly 2 Skillshare classes before I jumped in and did this with no practice. I felt that prepared. First was Modern Embroidery, Simple Stitches to Spice Up Your Wardrobe with Kathleen Lyons, and then I took Embroider on a Tote Bag, Aesthetic and Delicate Flowers with Angela from Holy Stitch. I'm actually starting on a pencil case though, and that felt nice and low risk, so I plan to eventually completely cover this with embroidered designs. Kathleen's class runs for an hour and 6 minutes, and Angela's is only 34 minutes long, so I got all these foundational stitches learned in under 2 hours. And I've got plenty more to learn too. Check out all the classes Skillshare has on embroidery. I am set for a while. Northern Hemisphere pals, you've still got a little bit of juice to squeeze out of summer, which means if learning was part of your summer bucket list, you've still got time to pick up that new hobby, brush up on an old one, or level up a side hustle or work skill before autumn starts to set in. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Thanks to Skillshare for helping me learn this adorable new skill. I plan to add cute little flowers to so many things now, and thanks to Skillshare also for sponsoring this video. Before we move on to the more functional spreads, while I've still got this spread open, I thought I'd use it as an opportunity to swatch all of my markers and work out which ones are going to work best with this color scheme for the future pages. So I'm testing out all of my kind of beige and brown and blue and grey pens here to see what's going to work. These are all Tombow dual brush pens, and I wrote the numbers next to them so that I could have a really quick reference. Now we're on to the calendar spread, which is always an important one for any month. I personally find I don't flick back to it very much, but if I don't have this page in my journal, then it feels incomplete. Much like I'm trying to be deliberately imprecise with my lettering for this theme, I'm also going to be deliberately imprecise in my line work. I'm not using a ruler to make this happen, and I figure we've already got some sharp edges happening on the washi tapes and the sticker edges there, so bringing in a more organic element here felt like the right choice. There is a bit of a trick to drawing a somewhat straight free-handed line though, and that trick is to not move your wrist if you can help it at all. Just pull your whole arm back towards you and flip the book to whichever direction you need to so that you're just pulling your arm towards yourself to draw every line, and that will make that process a lot easier. The way I've set up my calendar here, I have a space above every functional calendar box for me to put the number, and I'm going to use a selection of my pens, all different ones, to fill those in so I've got a nice range of colours going on here. The light blue is the Tombow 533, the darker one is the 528, the ultra light one there is the 491, and the beige toned one is the 990. September is a super weird shape because it starts on a Sunday and ends on a Monday, so if you like your calendars to start on a Monday like I do, this one is probably as annoying as a calendar shape gets. It's like the most awkward Tetris block imaginable. Just in case you like the look of the measurements for this calendar, I will pop them up on the screen here. I'm using an A5 journal, so different size journals this won't work for, but most A5 journals you should be able to copy those exactly. I missed this sticker sheet when I was doing the cover spread, but I want to use it quite a bit throughout, so I just wanted to make sure there's one of those represented on the cover so that we have that cohesive feeling going all through the journal. These blue and gold gilded washis I've had for a really long time, like a really, really long time. You can still get them, but I didn't have very much left, so I'm just kind of adding little accent bits of those throughout. They kind of give a watery vibe even though they are a little bit more geometric. I always really like using washi tape as kind of a way to anchor a sticker rather than just having the stickers float. They kind of have something to float around, so that's how I'm using the washi tape here. And that's it for our calendar spread. This is how it works with the cover spread, and I feel like they're very much pages that are related and linked. I'm going to combine 2 pages into a single spread this time in a bit of an unusual way. This is going to be a combination of the currently page and also the one line a day. These boxes on the outside are going to be the currently sections. It's kind of like my snapshot or my goals pages in my own journal, but a little bit more self-care oriented, a little bit more reflection requiring. And the space in the middle is for our lovely winner of the mystery journal to write one line a day in whatever way they like. I've left it really open, so it can just be a line about a thing that they did, or it can be a line of gratitude, or it can be something else entirely. They could write the song that was in their head every day if they wanted to, or something along those lines, anything at all. And honestly, if they didn't want to use it for one of those purposes, it could just act as a second calendar for them to use for something other than what you would put on the regular calendar spread. So if it was just for assignment tracking, if for a university or college student, or just for keeping track of birthdays if you have a lot of them, or using one for work and one for personal, stuff like that, then it could work like that too. They could just ignore the heading. The heading is just a suggestion. When a functional page element is very open like this, I always like to jump in with a light colored marker and highlight every second row so it's really clear what's going where. This way you don't have to put something in a box in order for it to have its own kind of designated space on the page, and it adds a little bit of extra color and an extra design element without you actually having to really decorate very much at all. Of course, these boxes need headings, and they're going to be the same from one month to the next because I don't want to add something to the journal and then take it away so that the person who wins it and is hopefully using it gets kind of messed up halfway through. So these boxes are for aiming, which is kind of like goals, things that they're loving, things that they're feeling, and things that they are practicing. And here are the grid spacing guides so that you can copy this if you'd like to. I'm still not quite done with my stickers though. We're all set now with our one line a day / currently spread. Let's move on to the next spread, which is for trackers. I was really enjoying the multi-purpose spread system from the previous one, so I'm bringing that into this one as well. I'm setting up two tables here technically. There's going to be a table on the top that's for tracking habits, and a table, or kind of two tables on the bottom, that's for tracking spending. When I say tracking habits, again, this is kind of just a serving suggestion from me. I had some really comprehensive tracking systems available in the initial setup pages for this journal at the beginning of the book, kind of before the monthly setup started, so it's possible that the winner might be using those for their habit tracking. They might want to use this to track something else, I don't know, but I thought I would give them the option, so we have trackers here as well. Again, in the interests of consistency, to make sure I'm not giving something to this person to use and then taking it away mid-year, I'm including space to track 6 habits or other things. The numbers across the top there correspond to the days of September, so the SMT is for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc., so on and so forth. 1, 2, 3 is for the first, second, third, and they can write the name of the habit in the smaller column on the left and then place a mark underneath the corresponding day for if they complete the habit or whatever it is that they're tracking. Here's the grid spacing for the way this whole spread works together. Underneath that is the spending log, and that's a section for writing down your finances, your spending parts of your finances in whatever way works best for you. So for me, in my own spending, I have such a commitment to writing this stuff down that I have a whole journal for it. So I write down every single thing I spend. Some people prefer to keep it to just their larger purchases. However you keep track of your money, as long as you're kind of aware of where it's going, then that's great. And whatever works for you is a good thing. Repetition is key when it comes to setting up a really cohesive theme, whether it's in a bullet journal or another planning style or some other system of your life if you're decorating things. I hadn't used the watery stickers in a little bit. They were kind of on the cover in the calendar spread and then not really on the last one, so I'm trying to make sure I bring them back here so that we don't forget about them and have them feel like they've become irrelevant to the theme or like I ran out or something. I also just really like them. I love the bit of texture that they bring to the page. I love that they decorate a fairly large space quite quickly and effectively, and I feel like they communicate this theme way faster than any of the other stickers that I'm using does, which is kind of funny. So what's not to love? Our tracker spread is all set up, so we're going to turn the page and move on to the next of our functional pages. This one actually doesn't have a purpose, at least not yet. Because this journal isn't for me, I'm trying to make sure I bake in some flexibility so that anything I haven't considered, the winner of the journal can just add in themselves, but maybe I take off the pressure of decorating it themselves. So I'm adding in this spare spread. I'm including one of these in every month. It's really just a somewhat minimally decorated spread that's got some stuff sort of around the outside so that in whatever way the winner decides they need to use it, they have the flexibility to do that. Also, I just want to clarify when I talk about the winner in such a vague way, this journal has been won. This journal is no longer available. It's already in the hands of its winner. I will probably be doing another mystery journal giveaway later on in this year for the first 6 months of next year. So the way it would work is I'll be setting up the journal through October and November, giving it away at the beginning of December so that it has time to reach the winner before January hits, and then they can use it as their own journal for the first 6 months of next year. That giveaway is not open yet. It will not be open until probably November at the earliest, so sit tight. And I'm toying with the idea of maybe giving away a reading journal too, but I'm not totally sure yet how that would work. Anyway, we finished the spare spread, so we're going to move on to the reflection spread, which is the last of our functional pages before we move on to weekly spreads. I'm keeping the setup for this one really simple. I'm just dividing the pages in half horizontally, so we have a top and a bottom section on each one. I'm layering up a little bit of decoration that's going to serve as the backdrop for the heading for each of these boxes, and I'm going to put the main page heading in the center in that sparkly watery bit as well. Sort of wish I'd put that down before I did the line because it is semi-transparent washi paper, but not a big deal. Some of the stickers from the Sticky Below the Blue set also included these kind of label-y ones, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to use those as little heading markers. Honestly, by this point, I was somewhat regretting my decision not to do my usual hand lettering styles because I felt like that reflections heading was just a little sad, but I think I brought it back somewhat with some stickers, and I'm going to do my offsetting every second line with a marker thing again to bring a bit more pizzazz to this spread because it's feeling a little lackluster to me right now. The headings for these reflection sections are highlights for anything that was really good in the month, successes for anything that was won or overcome, learnings for anything that was maybe a little bit rough and hard, and to work on for things that need some improvement. Onward to the weekly spreads. When I'm setting up weekly spreads in a journal like this, I prefer to keep my weeks together, so even though the first of this month falls on a Sunday, I will have that Sunday back in the August spreads because it makes more sense there because more of the pages of that week fell into August than September, which means the weeklies start actually from the 2nd of September here. And on the right page, you'll see this sticker sheet with shells on it. It's really hard to see on camera, but each of those shells has a little gold gilded number on it, and I have been saving it for exactly this purpose. So I'm going to use those to number all of the weeklies all the way through the rest of this theme. The weekly setup we're doing right now is one of my favorites. It has 8 sections, so you've got space for each of the 7 days of the week, and then a little extra box to put notes in. It is a horizontally oriented weekly, so the space for each of the weeks is wider than it is tall. That's not my favorite usually, but I do really like the aesthetic of this one, so I actually end up using this one in my own journal pretty often. I'll show you the grid spacing for it in a little bit, but we'll finish decorating first. The way I set this one up actually has most of the planning happening within the inside of the pages, closer to the spine, the binding, whereas the decoration really sits around the outsides. And that really has spawned from the fact that I hate how your hand feels like it's falling off the edge of a cliff when you reach the edges of the page. The bottom of a journal is even worse, but you know, you just like feel like there's nothing to support your hand anymore. This kind of spread can avoid that, and I love that about it. I'm adding my numbered shells just where the stripe that I've added for each day meets the decoration on the outsides, and I'm going to letter the name of each day in here too, so it's really clear what's supposed to go where. One thing about always doing your decoration the same way though, like if you loved this weekly and you did it for all of your weeklies, that's totally fine and doable, but it will make just the outsides of your pages really thick, which can make the journal a little bit unbalanced and weird and bulky in practice, so it is kind of a good idea to try and distribute your decoration around the pages throughout the book so the book grows evenly as you work your way through it. I promised you grid spacing, and grid spacing you shall have. Here it is. Also, just trying to get those shells into the light so you can see the numbers. The top one with the 6 on it, you can kind of see there. Let's turn the page now and move on to our second weekly spread, second of 4, and a pretty good example of varying the decoration so that your book grows more evenly. This time I'm going to decorate the top and bottom of the pages, and I'm dividing the middle into 4 sections. So this is kind of a reduced version of a weekly I've been doing a lot lately that I've been calling like the SWOT analysis weekly, because it's kind of a similar shape to the SWOT analysis. I've just smushed it into squares kind of rather than big rectangles so that I can have that space for decoration, because these stickers are a little bit bigger than your average bear, so if I was trying to set this up the way I would do my usual SWOT analysis, I think I'd be covering some vital planning space. This way I can kind of factor that in, so the overall planning space is smaller, but it's also still effective. Apparently I completely zoned out putting down my number stickers this time because I just missed a day on the left page, but don't worry, it's alright, I've realized we're gonna fix it. Thank goodness for sticker tweezers, because they really make the peeling things back up process a lot easier. Also, I did this on the previous weekly spread too, but I didn't remember to call attention to it. I've added just another shell, or in this case starfish sticker, to the notes section because this is another spread that I'm dividing into 8 rather than 7. I wanted it to still have something even though it doesn't have like a gold gilded denoting sticker of its own. I still wanted it to look like it made sense with the others, so I'm picking stickers that are similarly sized and similarly coloured. Here's the grid spacing for this one in case you want to try it yourself. And now we're going to move on to weekly spread 3. Unlike the previous 2, this one I'm going to divide into 7 weekly spaces so we won't need a notes section. This really is my fallback fail-safe weekly spread, and I stole it from Ruthie Journals on Instagram. It's glorious and I owe everything to her. You essentially start out by dividing a single page into 6, so you split it down the middle vertically and then split it into 3 horizontally, and then you kind of alternate which side your planning spaces go and which side your decorative spaces go. So everywhere I'm putting a shell here, it's a little hard to see right now because you can't really see my pencil lines, but I'll do the marker in every second line trick again here so it's really clear where the planning happens. The spaces where I'm not adding these lines are the spaces where it's just going to be pure decoration. So it's kind of like a really chaotic checkerboard, maybe. You can go ahead and put the weekly planning spaces in boxes if you prefer, and just have the decoration kind of float around the boxes. I usually do that. In fact, I've done that many times in the past, but I'm really enjoying not enclosing things for this layout. Again, it's like the openness of the ocean, right? I'm getting very metaphorical here, so that's why I'm not putting things in boxes. And I realize this light blue, the 491, is really hard to see on screen, but hopefully there's enough of an impression there that you can kind of see where everything's supposed to go. And now we decorate, and I love to layer things in these situations. I try not to leave too much negative space. Part of it is kind of unavoidable, but it can be really tricky, and I love a challenge, and I love this challenge, to balance having everything that you've included in your theme across these boxes. I see that challenge, and I accept that challenge, and I am going to make something really cool with it, I think. It's also just a really good opportunity to use up any scraps of larger things like these bits of the water washi paper that I have kicking around. Like, yeah, let's layer with those. Absolutely. Pop a little bit of that water texture down, add some stickers over the top. Bam, there's a theme right there. These bigger kind of label things that we used on a previous, like on the reflection spread. Perfect, let's pop them in here. almost using them like a background and then adding something with a little bit more visual interest over the top. Here's that grid spacing overlay in case my explanation earlier made no sense to you whatsoever. I'm actually not quite done decorating though, I just wanted to show you that before it got like more chaotic. With that one done, we've got one more weekly spread to set up and then we will be all set for September. And we've had a fair bit of horizontal weeklyage going on in this one, so I thought we'd mix it up and do a vertically oriented weekly instead. This is another one of those weeklies where you divide the page up into 8 even boxes, and we're going to have a notes section to make it all nice and symmetrical, but this time they are vertical boxes, so it's really good for writing lists. If you write lots of lists in your weeklies, then this is probably a good one for you. Here's the grid spacing before I add any decoration. And part decoration, part functional, the first thing I'm going to add here is the shells with the numbers on, because I feel like I need them all to go in the same place across all of the boxes for the purposes of uniformity and for the purposes of maximizing planning space, because these boxes aren't very big. They're big enough, but they're pretty narrow, so I don't want to eat up too much of that room. And again, I'm substituting a different shell or something for that bottom right one, because that's going to be the notes section, so I don't have a gold gilded notes shell to go there, so we work with what we can. I don't really know what that one is. Is that an anemone or something? It kind of looks right at home there though, so I'm alright with it. You may have noticed I have left space on the outside edges to decorate again. That is a very common MO for me. But since I did it literally like 3 pages ago, I thought this time rather than using that water textured washi sheet situation, I would layer my 2 washi tapes next to each other and use those as the basis, and I actually really like how this looks. I'm also trying to make sure I use up these jellyfish because they are probably my favorite stickers from the set, so rather than adding anything else in here, I really like the way this weekly looks with just these rose gold accents on the jellyfish and the bubbles, the shells on each day, and like that's enough. That's great. I will jump back in with my markers and add that every second row offset onto the planning space because I just like the subtlety that has, but besides that, I'm not actually going to add any more stickers to this spread. Instead, I just bundled them all up with the journal and sent them along with it to the winner so that if they wanted to add more decoration to any of the spreads, but mostly that spare one that we did earlier, if they don't have a use for it, they can just make it a junk journal or a quote spread, then they have all of the supplies they need to do that. Okay, I lied. I am going to add some more stickers, but just in really inconspicuous places around the boxes, and they're stickers that have really muted colors as well, so they're not going to take away from the jellyfish. The jellyfish really need to have their moment, you know? You get me. There she blows. We have finished September in the mystery journal for 2024. Let's have a little flip through so we can see how everything works together. I have never really done an ocean theme before. I did kind of like a piratey one for April in the previous mystery journal, but this was my first ocean theme, which is wild because I live pretty close to the ocean and I grew up next to it, so funny that it took me this long. I had such a good time setting this up. I feel like it's very different for me. I really enjoyed the process and I really hope the winner of the mystery journal enjoys it too. But also you watching, I hope you had a good time as well. Let me know which one was your favorite spread and make sure that you use a ocean themed emoji in your comment so I know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thank you for sticking around. I'll have September in my own journal ready for you to watch soon, but in the meantime, if you'd like to get some more ideas, here's September from my journal last year. It's a springtime floral theme. And I also have a video about how to decorate your journal more beautifully, so that's on the screen too in case you'd like to learn a bit more.